The Pulse Network. It's social TV.
Heat wave has been gripping our country for the past few days, and our studios are up in Boston, and we haven't had much heat. It's been pretty beautiful, but it looks like that's about to end because the heat wave, which is causing actually tragedy throughout the United States, is now heading to the east as well. This extreme heat, according to CNN, is now affecting over half of the country. About 141 million people in a 1 million square mile area were under heat advisories and warnings. Now, that's an absolutely massive area. The National Weather Service did say these triple-digit temperatures are forecast to remain in place throughout the eastern United States through Saturday, cooling off slightly to the mid-90s by Sunday.
The minimum GPA required for first-year athletic competition from a 2.0 to 2.5 in the 16 required core courses. Prospects who meet the current academic standards for initial eligibility but who fail to meet the proposed new standards I just outlined would be permitted to enroll, receive aid, engage in limited practice during their freshman year, but they would not be permitted to compete until an academically successful year in residence was fulfilled at the institution.
Now, that was just one of the announcements made at the SEC Media Day, but it certainly is one that had people buzzing. In particular, not everyone was happy. He's quoted ESPN as saying, "For some reason, we want to try and make it more difficult for these young men who come from difficult backgrounds and difficult academic settings. I think the requirements are pretty good the way they are now." And according to Sporting News, Texas A&M and Oklahoma are so concerned about rival Texas gaining a recruiting advantage with the newly formed Longhorn Network, they are willing to go to the SEC. Well, the SEC just totally dominant with their new super conference status. So it's something that the NCAA is going to have to potentially interfere with. Washington Post and many other news outlets reporting the end of this long relationship. 12 years, 13 majors. And Tiger Woods fires his caddy. Tiger Woods had this quote to express what he had to say. He says, "I want to express my deepest gratitude to Stevie for all his help, but I think it's time for a change. Stevie is an outstanding caddy and a friend and has been instrumental in many of my accomplishments. I wish him great success in the future." Spaceship Atlantis has officially landed late last night, early this morning, and it marks the end of NASA's space flight. Now, this is obviously very significant for multiple reasons. One, space flight has been something the United States has held quite dear to them for quite some time, even using it as sort of a rallying patriotic stance, particularly during the Cold War. And now, well, after much debate and battle, it has officially come to an end. Now, it is noted that NASA has provided the nation with 30 years of almost uninterrupted access to space, but the landing of the Atlantis marks the end of that. That even if the United States comes to some type of conclusion regarding the debt ceiling, if there is a compromise, if negotiations are met, Republicans and Democrats come together, it might not be enough. John Schoen, one of the senior producers over at MSNBC, writes that a stalemate over debt talks continues to drag on, and it might have passed the point of no return in avoiding a U.S. government debt downgrade. So not only is it affecting the federal government and the way the federal government has to deal with their spending, but now the potential downgrade of the federal government is affecting states as well. 5 of the 15 states that have that coveted AAA rating are threatened to be downgraded as well due to their close ties with the federal debt. All about the height of Mount Everest. Well, apparently the government in the fall has said enough. The Nepalese are now going to measure Mount Everest to find an exact height. Now, this actually goes back for quite some years, and the discrepancy is over where to measure the height of Mount Everest. But they say that right now, Mount Everest is measured at 8,848 meters high, but it could be some meters off, so they're devoting men, time, energy, and money of that government to go remeasure Mount Everest.
The Pulse Network. It's social TV.